I seen a guy post about showing his deer heads, and I figured, hey, why not show my deer heads? So here's one of them. It's a little over 5 inch bases, mainframe 8 with a crab claw, and off both ends he had daggers sticking off both brow tines. Pretty gnarly buck. He was following a doe, grunting. Shotgun kill. This deer was jumped by another hunter, and he had a doe with him too. He's right at 5 inch bases, 9 point. I think he was 136 inches. Shotgun kill. This was my first deer, 10 point, open sight 30-30. Right at noon, I had moved 3 times on the mountain, and the third sit, I was getting ready to leave, and he come trotting off basically from where I'd been sitting the first time, and gave me about a 75-yard shot, open sight 30-30. I found that rack right there, but I believe I shot him with a 30-06 and found him the next year, 10 point. As a 9 point, good 9 point for National Forest land, open sight 30-30, hunting with my brother. There's some match sets that I found. And these are all my deadheads that I've found. Let's do this one. This is my first bow kill. Found a cedar tree that was shredded up, a scrape under it. Found there was no trees to climb, so I had to find a place to sit on the ground. Got off work early that day. It was pre-rut, early November, like November the 8th maybe. Went about 2:30, sat on the ground. At 3:30, he come basically scent checking for does down a trail, 18 yards on the ground with a compound bow. He ran about 120 yards. These are just some of my deadheads. These are the deadheads worthy of being inside. I've got a bunch more than this. Big, it's 130 inch and 5/8, 10 point. Another giant 10 point chocolate rack. That one, I had him in bow season coming, but the wind swirled and he winded me, and went back in there the next year, and he was dead, 40 yards from my tree. So I don't know if somebody else shot him. My guess is what happened with a bow, maybe gut shot. And sorry about that fly flying around here. Just some more deadheads. There's a big 10 point I found. And this one, he's got almost a split main beam, funky rack, fork, and then a palmated, looks like a caribou. And it was bleached out, and I did the coloring on it to get it back look somewhat decent. But I'm sure that was an old deer right there. This is one of my first deadheads I found. Split brow, mainframe 5 on his right. Bunch of kickers and stickers. I think he was 13 points overall. But that's what got me started in shed hunting and deadhead hunting right there when I found that one. Just solid 8, bunch of solid 8s. This one was in a place where there's no hunting allowed, and this odd point had caught some vines and wrapped up the vines that he apparently couldn't get loose, and died right there from, I guess, stress and starvation. So, but I was happy to find him, so it didn't just go completely to waste. That one, I believe, was a shotgun kill. That was a shotgun kill. I seen him crossing the road and went and killed him about a week later. Public. All these are all but what, one or two is public. Archery, 50-yard compound archery shot right there, 8-point, almost a 9-point. That was shotgun. That deer right there, even though, I mean, he's got little bases, nothing upstairs, but you see he was missing teeth. Biologist aged him at over 6.5. But that just goes to show you that genetics plays a bigger role than age in antler size. There's a archery kill, compound archery, 20 yards head on, shot him straight between in the middle of the front of his chest, and he did 3 backflips and died. Rage. That was a shotgun kill right there. Unfortunately, broke his brow tines off, because that would have made him show how big he really was, because he was a giant. He is a giant, but with brows, you can imagine what that frame would look like. Big diamond frame. That is matter of fact, that's this year's shotgun. He was chasing does. Shot him at about 100 yards, 120 yards with a slug, scope and a slug. That's shotgun kill as well. That one right there is let me see. Oh yeah, that was my first kill with my Raven crossbow R9. 50 yards. He ran 23 yards and died. Hole in the horn buck. Not a high scoring deer, but I was pumped to get him. That was a shotgun buck. He come out with 6 does out of a real thick area, and I shot him at 8 yards. Big dagger brow. That deer right there, that shotgun, he had about 4 or 5 does with him. Big bases. I believe those are 5-inch bases as well. That was a crossbow kill a long time ago. Forgive me for shooting such a young one. That was private land crossbow kill, and I'm glad I shot him even though he was young, because I lost permission on that property the following year because the owner died and the daughters took over and they wouldn't let me hunt out there no more. So, and I had 2 8-pointers that were going to be 4-year-olds the next year, and I never got to go back after them. That was last year's shotgun kill. Nice 8-pointer. That deer right there was a shotgun kill in a management area. Big, nice management area, public land deer. That deer was a muzzle loader. It was a 9-point. He broke that main beam off on his left side. He was chasing does as well, muzzle loader, early November. And this one of my giants. This deer right here, he stood up out of bed, 125 yards, and I shot him in the neck, and he dropped. He was standing 3 steps from his bed when I went to go get him. Big 5-inch bases. I think he's 135 inches. 5.5-year-old. Big buck. This is another muzzleloader buck. Giant chocolate 10. Same management area. He could have been a 15-point. If this would have made it, that and them 2 kickers right there would have just went just a little bit more. He would have been 15 points. But he was a young deer, I believe 4.5. But I'm happy to have got him. Chocolate horn, public land. Take him any day of the week. I think it was 45-yard shot, muzzleloader. We start getting into sheds and stuff. This is a bladed brow, really bladed brow, 8-point. And I have one side from a previous year, but I don't know if I've got it in here with me. So this deer is the year prior. You can see where he had them points sticking out. Well, the next year I believe him to be 8 in this picture. 9 years old here. I don't know if he was shot or why he died, but I hunted him after I found those sheds. I hunted him for 2 more years and never saw any sign from him, and gave up And one day went looking again, and I stumbled upon his head. I think he's 113 inches, but he's a 9-year-old buck, I believe. And I'm happy to have finished the story on him and was able to find his sheds in a fresh burn, and then 3 years later find his head from, I'm assuming, the next year, because after that his sign never was in there anymore. Now this was a deer that I was after for quite a while. I found that shed right there. Split G2. Massive deer. And then the next year I went in there and I found matching sides to the year before this antler dropped. So I'm assuming he's at 4 on the matching set and he was at 5 on this set. And I know he's the same deer because he's got the split, he's got the long brow, and this little knob is right there as well. It's not as pronounced as it is on this antler, but it's there and everything matches up. Split G2. He's just a whole lot heavier. This is him at 5, I believe, and that the match is him at 4. And he disappeared. I cleaned a tree out to hunt him, and somebody else started climbing the tree, and I believe they ended up killing him. But that hurt me. But don't ever clean a tree out. Keep your trees clean. This is one of my bigger singles that I've ever found. Big, massive 5-point side. Big blade right there. Big brow, chocolate horn, fresh. I was going through a creek and I was or a ditch, and I was fixing to drop down in the ditch, and as I was bending over to drop, I glanced over to my left and that was laying there. Almost missed it. Hope you enjoyed. That's my little collection. There's a lot of years and effort, mountains climbed and scouting, a whole lot of effort. And then right here, from here and then this aisle starts my deadhead finds. Really excited about that 10 and that 10. They were some big deer, and that deer right there too. That's a big giant buck. And of course my bow buck. And here's my rattlesnake, timber rattler. He was a good one. About 5.5 foot. Come out at me in a dove field. Crawled by me about 4 foot beside me. Well, alright, hope y'all enjoyed it.